Good morning, Alaska Food and Farm Festival attendees. Sunday morning and everybody's a little slow coming out after last night's banquet, and I want to thank everybody that was able to attend or donate or purchase an item at the auction. It was a fun and eventful and a great meal. Anybody had the meal, it was wonderful. And so, we'll let you in on a little secret. We raised over $10,000 in the scholarship auction last night. Thank you. That was all from folks' outreach. So anyway, I want to welcome to the sponsors, or thank the sponsors. Real quick, our sponsor list, the AC Stores, Ag West, Farm Credit, Alaska's Farmers Market Association, the Alaska Department of Health. I've done this wrong all week. Nana? Management Services, Country Financial, Maison, a Jewish response to hunger, Natural Resources and Conservation, Coca-Cola Bottling of Alaska, Northwest Transition to Organic Partnership Program, Safeway, and the Salcha Delta Soil and Water Conservation District. Now, it is my warm welcome pleasure to introduce you the opening act this morning. And no further ado, the Alaska MEP, or the Manufacturing Extension Partnership, encourages the strength and competitiveness of Alaska manufacturers through training, consulting, collaboration, focused industry programs, and by leveraging government, university, and economic development partnerships to advocate for the needs of Alaska's manufacturers, both large and small. And I think we've got a wonderful Q&A this morning. We've got some of Alaska's manufacturers in the room. And I'm going to turn this over now to Megan and Katie and let them tell you a little bit more about what they do.
Good morning, everybody. I feel like he kind of did half of the work for me already, which is great. So welcome to our panel. We are celebrating local manufacturers. This is called the Taste of Alaska. So we have several manufacturers. We're going to go over what we're going to start off with, but I want to start off with acknowledging the land that we gather on today is in the ancient homeland and traditional territory of the Dena'ina people. Look at it, I've got a clicker. Where do I point to? Stand by. Next slide. Thank you. Back one. Thank you. Okay, so I want to go over just the overview of what we're going to be going over today. So this gathering is more than just an exploration of food. It's a deep dive into the economic, health, and community benefits of Alaska's local food system. So we're going to go over an opening. We're going to talk about the ripple effect of buying Alaska. We have a panel with Alaska food manufacturers, and then we're going to do a group activity where we talk about consumer choices. So for those of you all in the back tables, if you would come forward, trickle into these front tables, we've got some different questions that we want to go over, get your feedback. And if you don't want to be in these front tables, we also have these questions posted in the app under the poll section. Once we have our panel, if you feel any desire to ask any questions, you can put those into the app for our panelists under the Q&A, and then we'll go over those at the end once we have a minute. So to start off, my name is Megan Melatello. I am the Supply Chain Optimization Manager at the MEP, and this is Katie joining me. She's from the BuyAlaska program. She's the director there and also works at the SBDC. So for the Alaska MEP, we really are here to help manufacturers grow. Scott already gave us an intro on all the things that we do. So we connect our manufacturers with experts that can help them optimize their processing or build a website, or even just how to understand food nutrition labels, anything like that. So we have a network of over 50 MEPs in all of the different states that we can rely on as well.
Thank you, Megan. Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Nave. I am the Program Director of BuyAlaska, and BuyAlaska is a program under the Alaska Small Business Development Center. A little bit of background about our program. It's actually existed under the SBDC since the early 1990s. And in the wake of the pandemic, the Alaska SBDC revamped and relaunched BuyAlaska in order to better address the needs of small businesses. So, BuyAlaska's mission is to strengthen Alaska's economy by inspiring consumers to choose Alaskan-owned businesses first. Our program serves as a hub to find and connect with Alaska businesses, for businesses to connect with one another, and as a place to educate the public about why choosing local is so important. So we've come a really long way since our relaunch in 2020. We're now proud to host over 1,000 Alaskan-owned businesses on our statewide directory. The BuyAlaska Business Directory is really making it possible for us to catalog all of the amazing small businesses in Alaska and help make it easier for consumers and for other businesses to find local products and services. So we all know that supporting local businesses is important, right? But why? Why exactly is it so important for us to keep our dollars local in Alaska? When we relaunched the program, it was really important for us to obtain Alaska-specific data on what happens when we shift our spending from non-local businesses to local businesses. As we all know, Alaska has its unique challenges, and it's really important that we consider these. In 2021, we asked the UA Center for Economic Development to conduct a study to determine what exactly was the impact of a shift in spending to local businesses in Alaska. So it's now my pleasure to bring Rochelle Johnson, the lead analyst at the CED, to the stage to talk about the findings of that study and to shine a light on why supporting local businesses, the reason that many of us are here today, is so important for Alaska's economy and for our communities. So please help me welcome Rochelle to the stage.
Good morning, 9 a.m. Sunday. You guys ready to talk about data? No one will fall asleep. Hopefully not. Wrong direction. So as Katie said, I'm here to talk a little bit about some work that we partnered with the SBDC and BuyAlaska program to do. This work comes out of sort of a body of research that has been happening nationwide, and our goal was to put real good Alaska numbers behind it. Because as we know, a lot of the impact of buying local is really dependent on a local supply chain. And so impacts like we're going to talk about here tend to vary really widely depending on geography. So this is Alaska data. And this is our big statistic that we found from our work with, it comes from survey data from businesses across Alaska. But the impact of buying local means that a locally owned business has about 63% of their revenues stay in state. And compared to a non-local business, and when you think about a non-local business, I think a lot of really tangible examples are like your Fred Meyer's, Costco, et cetera. Only 22% of their revenues stay in state. I think what's important here to consider is why is that? Where do those dollars come from, and where are they going? There are a lot of reasons for this, but one of the biggest reason is value retention. A local business lives in your state. The business owner lives in your state. And so there's a lot more money recirculating from that business and their activities within their economy. One of the reasons that causes this is that local business owners and businesses tend to contribute to charitable organizations within their community, at higher rates and in larger quantities as a percentage of their revenue. That has a really big impact on our nonprofit sector, which is really important. Also, local business owners or local businesses employ local people. That means that all of those jobs and all of those incomes stay within an economy. Your employees spend at local businesses, they purchase houses, they rent. All of those have a real impact on sort of generating that local economy and keeping those dollars circulating. Local businesses are also more likely to source their goods and services from other local businesses compared to a non-local local business. So if a local business is looking for sourcing their own internal supplies that they need for like we're talking about here, manufacturing, they're far more likely to target other local suppliers to source those businesses than a non-local manufacturer. But they're also more likely to hire a local accounting firm, et cetera, to keep those dollars that they're spending on their own processes local. So this is where I think you can really see some of the differences of those impacts. A local business owner has, sorry, I haven't had enough coffee yet. A local business has a far greater impact revenue because of the way that they choose to spend their dollars compared to a non-local business. And I would add to this that a local business owner often lives where their business is, or investors live where their business is. So profits of that business stay within the community compared to, the president and CEO of Kroger does not live in Alaska. And so the profits and income that is raised that isn't just sort of expenses that are spent in a community leaves our state. But I think from this example, it's hard to see the sheer sort of scale of impact, because when we're talking about the difference between a Fred Meyer's or a Blue Market, like those are very different businesses just in terms of sheer scale. And so what we did was we approached this question from asking what's the impact of each Alaskan household just spending $20 at a local business compared to a non-local business per week. And because that's a really tangible sort of quantity, and it's a tangible decision also. I can make the decision to shop at Johnny's Produce in Anchorage instead of shopping at Fred Meyer's. And this is what we found. This goes through our fun black box that us economists like to call economic impact analyses. But those $20 per week for all Alaskan households, if we envision that as like the grand goal, supports jobs at local businesses. Those businesses have to, hire more people to support increased revenue and increased spending at their companies. That in turn sort of it also supports greater revenue growth for those businesses, more income for employees that stays local, and it contributes to our local GDP in Alaska. But so as I mentioned, these are statewide results. And I want to take a step in and focus a little bit more on food businesses and food manufacturing, because that's what we're here to talk about. While our survey results that kind of created these impacts do certainly include food businesses and food manufacturers, I think they're sort of better taken as statewide, economy-wide results. But what we do know is that food businesses are one of the easiest ways to sort of understand these results, because everyone here is in the food industry to a certain extent, but it's also really easy to understand it in terms of a consumer decision. How is the consumer choosing to make a purchase? They're purchasing at a local business. How does that local business's supply chain ripple throughout the economy to support other businesses? And inevitably, if they have the opportunity or the supply within a local Alaska market, how does that impact farmers? So we do know that the food and beverage manufacturing industry in Alaska is $800 million industry in terms of output. It's one of our largest manufacturing industries within the state, which partially I believe is because the seafood industry is also included in that, and they're a whopper in terms of economic impact within our state. But when you think about the impact that a local business's decisions on how they source their supply chain, how they hire, what those impacts have on our economy, from this data, the impact of that $800 million industry really starts to multiply and expand really, really rapidly. But I think it's also important to consider that a business can only make that decision to source a good or a service locally and localize their supply chain if the goods and services exist for them to do so. Otherwise, they have to expand and look outside of Alaska. And so I will sign off with this data with the sort of proposition that, in my opinion, I think localizing our supply chain is one of the biggest opportunities for economic growth, especially in the food and beverage manufacturing industry, food industry. But it's also one of the biggest challenges, because to do so, we have to expand what that supply chain looks like. We have to connect dots and make it easier for businesses to make those decisions and source their products and services. Or we have to build new businesses, which is an incredible endeavor and a huge challenge. So I think we'll be hearing from other local businesses and manufacturers on how they do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Rochelle. Give her another hand. That's great data. Okay, now I want to introduce, I'm going to bring up all of our panelists. So we have 6 panelists here that are all different manufacturers. So we have Cody from Alaska Food Co. You guys please help yourselves, come on up. We have Bryce from the Alaska Flour Company, Adam from Taco Loco, Ralph from the Alaska Chip Company, Jennifer from Foraged and Found, and Clifford from Northern Seitan Company. And then we've got 2 mics. I'm going to take a mic. I think I could just be over here.
The microphone.
Here's.
Check.
Okay, thank you all for joining me this morning, Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Again, if you guys have any questions that come up during this, please put them into the app. There is a question section for our session. And so we are going to tackle those at the end of our questions that we have here for them now. So starting off, I'm going to start with Cody. We have a few questions that are individual based off of the industry, like what you're doing exactly. And then we have some more general questions that I'm going to ask so that we can kind of all discuss that. So starting with Cody, how do you maintain the taste profile of your freeze-dried products, and what makes them uniquely Alaskan?
All right, yeah, great question. Thanks, Megan. Thanks for having us here. And I love MEP. They've done so much for us. So to maintain the taste profile of our recipes, we started with a single serving recipe, and then in order to scale it up, that's where kind of the science is, right? You can't just like salt doesn't scale, recipes don't scale in a 1-to-1 kind of proportion. So what we've done is we've scaled out all of our recipes to 50 and 100 gallon batches, because that's the sizes of our tilt skillets. And to get to those, we scaled it up. We did a bunch of taste testings to make sure the flavor profile was still there. And then sort of part of our quality control right now is after each batch, we taste that batch before it goes into the freeze dryer, and then when it comes out of the freeze dryer, we reconstitute a little sample of it and make sure that flavor profile is still there. And luckily, like, we have 2 professionally trained chefs in-house, so that makes that a huge difference. You know, like, they kind of have that palate for it. And then, you know, what makes us uniquely Alaskan is we try to source all of our, most of our ingredients and foods from local supply chains, local farms. We partner with Charlie's Produce. They work with a lot of local farms throughout the state. Like, I forgot the woman's name up here, but she was saying, you know, that, like, we can't source everything local, but as much as possible. And, like, in those downtimes, they fill in the demand through, you know, sourcing through farms through the West Coast. You know, ideally, we would source everything local, but, you know, we source our meat through approved vendors such as, like, Matt Valley Meats, and then, yeah, just try to source as much locally as possible. And then try to give each one of our foods, we try to also give, like, a unique Alaskan name to it too, like Chef Dale's famous Alaskan seafood chowder, for instance, or like our Yukon Gold mashed potatoes. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
No, that was great. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Ralph, from the Alaska Chim Company. With a full manufacturing facility, how do you manage waste and environmental impact while maintaining your production efficiency?
Are we on?
No.
I think I'm
Is there
missing
a
it.
button on the mic?
The switch is broken.
Oh, at the very bottom, Ralph. The very bottom.
Test. That's better. Sorry, could you ask a question again?
Yeah. With a full manufacturing facility, how do you manage waste and environmental impact while maintaining your efficiency?
I guess the first thing is that for us, environmental efficiency, the better we do at being environmentally friendly, we actually reduce our waste. It's a hard one to answer. We have found that the better job we do of maintaining a green environment, the less dumpster space we need. And so if we're able to find a source for our waste product that doesn't go in the dumpster. And we know that, and we started taking measures to take our cardboard. We have a lot of cardboard waste. We have a cardboard box. We stack it up. And so our dumpster size is about half of what it was. And even though our production has increased over the years, our dumpster size has gone down. And so it's efficient in a lot of different ways. And so for us, though, I mean, it doesn't really affect our process. Our process has to maintain and be consistent from batch to batch, year round. And so I don't see the connection there, but I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yeah, you did. Buying in larger quantities, has that been the main thing in reducing that waste too?
Yes. I mean, when you talk about waste, I guess there's a lot of different ways to discuss that. In a production facility like ours, you kind of either are making money or not, and it depends on how much you're putting into the dumpster. And that happens at the peeler, and that happens at the bagger. And so the biggest waste components that we have is you want to make sure that whoever's running that peeler is not over peeling. The outside of a potato is a larger area than the inside. So if you over peel, you may be throwing away 10% of your main component, which is important. And then at the other end of the production cycle, so we do our packaging. Our packaging machine, it's a vertical form fill and seal machine. And if you've got a dumpster who's overflowing with bags full of empty bags, then it means you've got inefficiency at the bagging. And I know that Adam can attest to this as well, that you will make money or lose money depending on how efficient you are at running your packaging machine. And so,
Totally. Yeah. I've been on a couple tours at your place, and it's always interesting seeing that vertical filling machine and how it creates the bags and fills them at the same time. It's fascinating. Makes for an efficient production line.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Jennifer. Sustainability is a significant concern for modern consumers. How do you balance commercial success with environmentally friendly practices?
I don't know if that one was working either. Can you say it one more
Oh,
time?
no problem. Sustainability is a significant concern for modern consumers. How do you at Forage and Found balance commercial success with environmentally friendly practices?
So there's a couple things that make us able to balance that really well. One is that for us right now, Mother Nature's been a really great business partner. There is a big biomass of kelp in our area. So we're not anywhere close to touching that in a dangerous way. But we do work very closely with the Department of Fish and Game. They actually manage our harvest. And I work very closely with our area biologist as well. So when we're out harvesting, I'm taking photos, video, I'm going in and talking to him about it, showing him how any observations I've had around any changes in biomass, positive or negative, any areas where we say, okay, we think that we might want to leave this one alone next year, or we've noticed new biomass popping up in other places, and that sort of thing. And then when he's out doing his surveys, which he's regularly doing for other fish and things like that, he can also kind of take a look, and we kind of collaborate really closely in that way. So in a way, I kind of feel like I'm a part of the team at Fish and Game, because I obviously have a vested interest in making sure that there's going to be kelp year over year. Otherwise, I'm putting my own business at risk, which is not smart business practices either. And then one of the other things that we are trying to look into doing as well is, because we're working with wild and we're really in favor of the farming of our oceans as well, responsible farming of our oceans. Bull kelp as a species has been historically pretty difficult to farm because it doesn't actually work with the same infrastructure that most blade kelp farms work with. And so we're looking at doing some sort of like a replanting program with a farm who's interested in learning how to farm bull kelp, where every jar of pickles we sell will donate to a farm to replant another bull kelp plant.
Oh, that's really cool. Okay, amazing. Love that.
Megan, can I interrupt for a second?
Yes.
These both have red lights on them, and there might be a hidden on button that I don't know about. I haven't seen this style before.
Test.
The hidden button.
Very hidden. And I think it turned green. That one didn't.
Yeah, so.
Thank you. Thank you. That was great. Interesting. Very interesting. And how much kelp do you harvest? Do you know? Annually? Monthly?
So bull kelp is only harvestable for us for about a 8-week period, 6 to 8 week period. Yeah, we're extremely seasonal. And for us, we just dictate it based on what we need to produce. So it just depends on what our forecast production is for the year is what we'll take out of the ocean. We don't take any more than we need.
Interesting. Nice. Nice. Thank you. Okay, Bryce at the Alaska Flour Company. Curious, barley is not a common flour base in the global market. So what prompted you to choose barley, and how does that impact your production line?
We started Alaska Flour Company because we're concerned about food security in Alaska, and our climate here is not really conducive to reliable wheat grown, not at the quality that people would expect. Our short season does allow for barley to be produced, though, and so at about the same time we were looking at food security, University of Alaska had released a variety that was developed here for human consumption, sunshine Hollis barley. So we got some of that, grew it out, and that's why we chose the barley, because barley is a very reliable crop to grow in Alaska. It's just that it's not well known in terms of human consumption in the United States or in the Western world. The Middle East, barley is a big staple, but not so much in America. So that's why we chose barley.
And I'm also curious, you said it's whole-less barley, so does that take an entire step out of your processing?
Yeah, so there's two kinds of barley, what they call a covered barley, which has the hull is firmly attached to the kernel, and then a hull-less barley, which most of in the process of combining or threshing, most of that hull is removed. There's a certain percentage, small percentage of grains that revert back to a parent, but for the most part, the hull sheds in the process. So it like wheat does. Wheat comes out clean. Hull-less barley comes out 85, 95, or 90% clean. And then we run it through a dehuller to remove anything that is loose or partially attached. And then what we mill after that is pretty clean. And then we sift it all so all of the hulls come out.
Amazing. Nice. Thank you. Thank you. Adam, at Taco Loco, how do you balance the traditional methods with modern manufacturing techniques in your production process?
Hi. Well, what we normally do is our recipes are traditional from when the company was founded. And as we've grown, production has increased. And so what we've had to do is find processing aids just to work on the new equipment. If you look at our ingredient listing, we have, I think it's 7 ingredients of what we've ever been able to narrow it down to. And then we've gone, obviously we used to use lard, and that kind of was bad with cholesterol. So we ended up switching to an expeller press canola, which replaced that. So that's one item that's not gone. And then we had to add preservatives because the grocery stores want, you know, X amount of weeks on shelf stability and also in the shipping. You want to make sure the product arrives fresh. Other than that, our whole ingredients is still the same as what we've always used to have. As we've automated the factory, we've had to tweak recipes a little bit, add some like gums or enzymes just so the dough's not so sticky, and we can mix it much faster because we process about 400 pounds of flour about every 20 minutes as we go through it. And so we have to keep, our timing is critical to keep all the machines full so you don't run out of dough, and so we have to speed up our mix times, and so that's where we incorporate enzymes, and we try to get as clean label as possible on it.
Nice.
We also do, just like Ralph, for sustainability, we also do recycling, all our plastic, all our cardboard. Where we can in town, we reuse boxes to keep from having to go into the landfill. Our waste oil we give to farmers, people that do bioengineering or with their fuel and everything, and then also our reject tortillas to go to farms also to help. So we try to waste pretty much minimal of anything that has some use for it.
Yeah, nice. I just noticed that your guys' packaging changed. What prompted that for your tortillas?
On the, which ones?
It was the smaller taco shells, and instead of having like the color and the norm, it almost looked like it came from a flow wrap type of machine.
Oh, well, no, that actually is a issue with our bagging supplier. Again, with cross, maybe with COVID, and then I guess they're in Yakima, they've had, I guess, tremendous heat waves down there. They cut their manufacturing down to only working at night, so we ran out of bags. So that was a supplement until our normal bags came in.
Wow.
So that was
okay, I was curious. Thanks.
Yeah, no, that was just a faux pas on our bag maker.
Well, you had a backup, which is good.
Yeah, those are our food service bags that we do that just
okay.
go into restaurants and that people never see, but we had to put something out there.
It worked. It worked. Thank you. Clifford, for your Northern Seitan Company, as a producer of vegan meat substitutes, how do you educate and attract consumers in a predominantly meat-eating region?
Yeah, in Alaska, it is very, very meat-centric, as most folks know. But just like everywhere else in the U.S. and across the world, there are dedicated folks who don't eat meat, just as their general day-to-day practice. So for those folks who do live in Alaska, they seek us out, honestly. There isn't a reliable method to get a lot of vegan kind of meat substitutes in the state. Most of the products that are becoming kind of increasingly popular don't have a long shelf life, or a carrier might have them once, doesn't have them again, all those sorts of issues. And then fortunately for the recipes that we do and things, we have a really unique product. So we offer varieties of things that I have customers, their first time trying is like, I haven't eaten this in 20 years, because and that'd be like our gyro or our pepperoni. We just offer things that people, even in the lower 48, you'd be very hard pressed to find. So that's kind of what we've made our name on, I'd say, is offering, very, very tasty, but also kind of like different products to bring people in. But we also have staples, just like your chicken and pork and that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, kind of preparing them mentally, like this is what you're going to expect.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. Okay, so a question for all of you. I would just love to kind of go down the line. How do you think the local food industry can work together to strengthen the entire value chain from production to consumption?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it starts with just being conscious of buying locally. there's explained here, 66 cents of every dollar spent with a local business stays within our local economy, and I think that's going to snowball over time. Over time, that adds more value, adds more jobs, allows us to diversify our product offering, diversify our supply chain. But I think it all starts with making that conscious decision to go maybe spend a little bit more money right now at your local business, and choose not to save like a few pennies shopping at Fred Meyer. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think for those of us in slightly more remote communities, access to infrastructure is a really big barrier for a lot of us. So, and a lot of us don't need, a plant that operates 12 months out of the year. Those of us who are seasonal or things like that. So I think that coming up with some sort of model that's like a shared use infrastructure model would be really helpful for a lot of the smaller communities in Alaska.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I think this is working now. So I think that the important part, we're all in the free market economy, and so it really has to start with the demand side. And so I know that the Division of Agriculture, BuyAlaska, have been working for years and decades on trying to increase awareness about Alaskan products, whether they're Alaskan grown or not. And so there's been a lot of success. The Alaska Food Policy Council and the work towards sustainability. We all know that when the barges stop coming up, we run out of food and toilet paper in about 3 days. And so I think that, and during COVID, awareness became a much greater awareness in Alaska. And so I think we've seen a bit of a shift. I've seen since COVID, there's been a bit of a shift, and I think it's that. But we also, the whole supply chain, it really kind of starts at the demand side, the customer. And so for us and for anybody here, if we're selling to a grocery store, it's like, who's your customer? Ultimately, the person who takes a bag of chips home and eats it is your customer. But to get it there, it means that I have to establish where do I get potatoes and buy cooking oil in a 2,100 pound vat and how to make it and hire employees. But even then, after all of that, in packaging it, you still have to have a distributor to distribute it. You need a food broker to manage your arrangement with the grocery stores and all of the other buyers. And you need to maintain the relationship with the stores themselves. And so, who's your customer? Who are you marketing to? You kind of have to market to every one of those all at the same time. And that's very challenging to do, especially when we're small businesses in Alaska, which means, just like in the E-Myth, you've got the different personalities. We can only be one personality. Typically, if we have a manufacturer like us, if Adam's machinery breaks down, Adam fixes it. He's a technician, I'm a technician. I'm a bagger technician, or have been since I started in this business. And so for us to be able to do that and also try to maintain those relationships is a big challenge. And so the more help we can get from sharing information, and I don't hold my cards to my chest. I look at my bagger, look at my equipment, figure out how that will help you manage or make your process. But that whole supply chain is complicated, and having AMEP, Division of Agriculture, plant material centers, so we know who we can talk to. I need somebody to grow Atlantic potatoes for me right now, right here now. Couldn't make that happen last November. I'm going to try again. And so there are programs and people that can make all those things happen, but it all has to line up. But I will say in closing that there has been a shift, and especially in the last 2 years. I've seen it. The growth curve has come up, and so I'm hoping that that's the start of a growth curve and not an end of one. So. Yeah. Long answer, sorry.
No, that was great. Thank you. Adam, the same question. How do you think the local food industry can work together to strengthen the entire value chain from production to consumption?
I think the organizations you've started like AMEP, Food Policy Council, Division of Ag, are doing wonders with the BuyAlaska, Made in Alaska program. I think that really helps manufacturers, because there are people that see the little bear or the BuyAlaskan symbol you see in the grocery store. Also, as manufacturers, all of them, regardless of what business, you need to bond together. Ralph and I collaborate on stuff. I don't know where you're from, but I know we've gotten seaweed or kelp, and we've made some kelp tortillas for the University of Fairbanks that was doing some type of thing for the Symphony of Seafoods. We've partnered, even see one of my guys there takes our stuff to Three Bears. But it's all local, sticking together. to try to increase sales for everybody, get the word out that, hey, this stuff's made here. A lot of people, in Alaska are transitional, whether it's government, military. They come in, they're here for 2 or 3 years, so you're constantly trying to re-educate them. No, we're here. I still get people that come in, oh, we didn't know you were here. We thought you were just a brand from outside. And that is the hardest challenge, is to educate the populace that there are local manufacturers, and if you help us out, we in turn help your businesses out too.
Totally. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just kind of a collaboration of everybody, I think, will make it stronger.
Yeah. Okay, Bryce. Sorry, I skipped Bryce already.
That's okay. We often criticize government, for example, for living in silos, working in silos, and not knowing what's going on between those groups, and we find fault with their inefficiencies. And yet the same thing kind of happens with us. All of us have a network and experience, and that network overlaps in places, but a lot of times we don't have the opportunity to even know what you may be needing or what you're looking for, or what, whether it's bringing something up from America logistically, whether it's sourcing product. We've got our circle that we work within, and very seldom go without it unless there's a venue or an opportunity that we meet, and then all of a sudden, just comparing notes, we realize, oh my gosh, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this, and oh, I know somebody that does that. So that would be really helpful, I think, is an opportunity, I guess, to share some of those knowledge resources, just to create those efficiencies. If we're looking to bring something up from America and somebody's got a truck down there and they need to load up, we can toss that on there and load their truck, finish filling their truck up, and get it up here in a timely manner. So that's one of the things that I think could help.
Clifford,
yeah,
please.
and I'd go 2 different directions with it. One, as a follow-up, is, from my own experiences, the first places to carry my product were all local grocers and have been local grocers. So, without kind of local specific companies like that, like I wouldn't have had the successful first year that I had. And then on the flip side, I create all of my I do all of my own recipes. I create my own products. I do, and with things that do have equivalents elsewhere in the world, I try my best to create local spins on them. So one of my popular products over the summer was a spruce tip hummus, where I made a spruce tip vinegar and used used spruce tip vinegar that I made instead of lemon for the acid, right? And I had a lot of customers who really appreciate the fact that everybody's had hummus before, but what are you doing differently that is something that people can get here and they're not really going to have the opportunity to get somewhere else? So it's on the partner side of where your products go. It's local places, but then for me, it's when I'm creating something, how am I taking the lens of what is here that I can use, even if garbanzos aren't grown here or sesame seeds aren't grown here, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think local people appreciate the local flavors. Definitely.
Megan, so something that Adam said sparked a memory to me that I had to share, and so there's kind of a bit of an awareness thing, and there's a what can we really do in Alaska, and so when we started business in 2003, it was pretty well known by everybody in Alaska that you can't make a potato chip out of Alaskan potatoes. There's too much sugar, too much water. So it was commonly well known that was the case. And when we had been in business for 10 years, somebody, I don't know where it was, but somebody told me that you can't make Alaskan potato chips from Alaskan potatoes. And so we've been doing it for 10 years. And so the reason I share this is, one, because it always just blows my mind. It means that either one, our marketing is not good enough, and so people still don't know about us. We've been making chips for 10 years and never heard of us. So there's a tendency to just assume that this has been tried before and it failed, and therefore it won't happen again. And so that line of thinking is not applicable. We've got some climate change, things are changing, technologies change, growing abilities change. And so we all have to shift with that and just not assume that the barrier that our our prior generation had is a barrier to us. And so, that's, people think that Taco Loco comes to the lower 48, and no, it's not. And so, but there's a lot of people, everybody's got their job, they've got their kids, and so they're not really looking above the steering wheel. And so somehow it's a function of, continuing to do what we're all doing and get them to look up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, marketing is hard. I'm sure we all know that. Marketing is hard. So you guys are doing a great job because I'm familiar with all your companies and I know that they are all growing. And so thank you for coming and joining us on this panel. Katie, you have the questions on the app. Perfect. Okay. Someone said, I'd like to ask each panelist, what indicators do you use to measure success beyond profit?
I like to use the Likert score, right, when getting feedback for our customer service and then also our products. It's like how well are we servicing our customers, and because that's really where it is. That's where the value's at. Is like how satisfied are your customers, and then another KPI is like how is that customer base growing? So customer retention and the lifetime value of your customer.
I was going to say, I don't know if any of us got into the food business to make a profit because it doesn't really seem like there are really good ones in it, but you got to do it because you love it. I would say that for us, what we're trying to do is improve like the health of the Americans by these superfoods that are growing here in Alaska. And so for us, even though maybe it does kind of go hand in hand with profit, is the more that we can kind of get our products out there to as wide of a consumer base as possible, to me that's success. That's kind of sharing the magic of what we have here in Alaska with maybe people who aren't lucky enough to live here or anything like that. So I would just say, try and reach and really trying to get out, like what is it that makes the food industry in Alaska so special?
Well, it's kind of a little bit of a trick question because I've got two answers for it. And the first is that if there's no profit involved, then it's like that's the only way that you can really measure what we're doing. Now, that's not to say we're not to the profit yet. And so ultimately, that's what we're all trying to do is make a profit. So get up to the break-even point and get above it. So it's a trick question. But what I really love is when I go to a grocery store and I see a bag of my chips in the cart, and man, I just love that feeling. And I went to a movies, this is back when people went to the movie theaters, Century 16. And so we went to see some movie, and this was like in 2016 or something. And there was somebody in the back row with a bag of our popcorn. So they, instead of buying the movie popcorn at the theater, they smuggled a bag of our popcorn into the movie theater. And that just made me feel so good. Like, Darcy, look, back there. And so, that it feels really good to know that we're fulfilling a need, that people love our product. And when I get accolades from people that they love our product, then that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
And that just feels good. But ultimately, we're in it to make a profit, and that's what we've got to figure out how to get there. And that's hard in this market because it's slow.
Yeah.
Yeah, during times when it's profitable and financially profitable, you really enjoy that. But there are times when you're not as profitable and maybe not even profitable. And during those times, you got to have some other metric to keep driving you through that downturn. And what I always like seeing is the comments like on Facebook, social media, people who meet us at someplace like this, and they tell us that they really like our products. And so that I guess is probably the second most important thing for me, is just to see that our products are accepted, that they're liked, that they've served a function for somebody who maybe had a problem and it fixed or helped to fix, or filled a need that needed to be filled.
For us, we use a lot of social media feedback is real helpful. Also is, our family is one of the pioneers coming up here with manufacturing. So as we've seen Anchorage grow and our customers, like on the food service, schools and restaurants, we see them be successful, and we know it's a correlation of us supplying them with product that's making their restaurants be successful, so it makes us successful, and that's kind of how we get some of our feedback. And then we used to do school district tours, and we had a lady in there, and she was like, you know, she goes, I came in here when I was in first grade, and she goes, and now I'm a mom, and I'm bringing my kids in there, and that's kind of, you know, gives you a nice feeling like, wow, we've, you know, I guess we've touched some lives, and that's kind of how we gauge our success on it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so I'd say we do repeat customers is a big one for our direct-to-consumer stuff. And then, again, from the kind of more anecdotal side, I just really keep track of how many people ask when we're going to make it to their community, because I'm not able to produce and get stuff out of Anchorage so well yet. And yeah, there's just so many people that I've spoken with who are very anxious for our products to be where they are. And then I think I was telling somebody else yesterday, just the term I've come up with basically of like lapsed vegans. So people who had a particular, like were people who didn't consume meat products or seafood at all until they moved to Alaska. And because it's so difficult to exist that way in this state, they do now, you know, eat fish or do something else or whatever, but they prefer not to, but they like being here, so they do. And, you know, just like, yeah, like I've had dozens and dozens of conversations with people like in tears, like, you know, just from the access that we are able to provide for the people who can get the products that we make thus far.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Such a good feeling, right? It like warms our souls. From the app, Bryce, are you still forcing the ripening process of the barley by spraying it with Roundup? If so, is there a plan to find a different method?
We've never forced the barley to ripen. So there's a process that is used in some places where they use a drying agent sprayed on 2 weeks or so prior to harvest to dry the crop and get it done. We don't. First of all, we don't do that because that was a conscious decision. We knew that our customers would not be in favor of that, and the fact that it's a food product and we are selling that food, that's just someplace we didn't go. Secondly, it takes specialized equipment to do that. We don't even have that equipment. So I know that there have been some posts years ago that somebody said, oh yeah, you're using this product to dry your grain prior to harvest, and that was not true. I don't know where that came from. So we have never done that.
Good to know. Look at that. Great question answered. Okay, to all panelists, do you welcome sales from the lower 48? Is the cost of shipping greater or about the same versus shipping within the states?
Yeah, so right now we're not shipping to the lower 48. That is something that we will explore down the road. I know that, you know, we import a lot of goods from the lower 48 and then we send a lot of the ships back empty. So maybe there's some sort of program there where we can piggyback off of that. I have explored also the option of sending pallets down to like an Amazon FBA warehouse and then just shipping directly from there too. But right now we're not at that point.
So yes, we do sell to the lower 48. Alaska was our first market, and it was a very good market to us, and it enabled us to scale to a point where we now have distribution in the lower 48, and we've gotten our pickles product line into all the West Coast Whole Foods stores.
Whoop, whoop.
And so our goal and our mission statement has always been to use Alaskan potatoes as much as possible and to have fun doing it and to sell to the Alaskan market. So that being the case, we do sell some out of state. A big part of our market, we've discovered tourism is really huge, and so we've been able to tap our finger into that, and so that's been a great benefit. And so in the fall, we will get a lot of people who tried our chips on a plane, train, or automobile somewhere, and so they order online. So we do a lot of online sales. And so that works, but the shipping, as everybody knows, is horrendous. So we've researched shipping, we've talked to food brokers, and we've looked at the Pacific Northwest. Obviously, there's a big difference between shipping one box of, to the lower 48 to somebody in Florida versus sending palletized a 40-foot container full of chips to Seattle. And so we're always continuing to look at that. And our Juneau market is kind of like shipping to Seattle. The cost of freight to Juneau is about the same to Seattle, and we actually had some success excelling in distributing into Juneau. And so I think that we can do it. There's a lot of extra barriers to doing that. But yeah, we're open to it. I think that one of the challenges that we run into in Alaska is that when you're trying to, I've heard people say, people in Alaska, businesses in Alaska think small, and they said it is a negative thing. But we're a small state, and so if you think too big coming into an Alaska market with your manufacturing facility, then you're not going to survive. And so we have to figure out how to stay efficient and stay small, and that way we can. So scale is really important. So that you want to keep a staff busy all week long, not one day, and so it's tricky to balance that out and keep your staff busy. And meet demand in the summer, in the wintertime, and then the summer when it doubles or triples, and then scale back again. And knowing full well that if we were to take our production system, which is pretty efficient, we've gotten it pretty efficient, and in this state that only has 750,000 people in it, and all of a sudden we're going to start selling into millions and millions of customers, and even if we're just a niche product, the demand is just a lot. And so we have to then look at, all right, so that means upscaling, bigger facility, bigger equipment, more potatoes, all good things, but it all takes money, and so there's that balancing effect. But we've been doing this for 20 years, and I would love to be able to sell in the Pacific Northwest, and I think that our product would sell well there. I do have one question though, and nobody has an answer for this yet. Amazon distribution, they don't have a shipping category to ship from Alaska to Alaska, and so you might as well be shipping it to Florida. It's just we're so small a part of their market that they don't create that category. I'd love for somebody to help us change that. And then with that as a question, they've got the new Amazon local distribution facility that they're building over on Old Seward in Dowling. Is there a mechanism, and maybe this is a question for the senators, our congressional delegation, or a local, or somebody, but is there a component in that building that takes into consideration the possibility for local manufacturers to sell inside of Alaska, as well as outside of Alaska? But if they would just allow me to sell to Fairbanks through Amazon, I think that I could sell more chips in those areas to customers who want them. And so there's some areas where we could still, open up some avenues that would benefit all of us, and those are some that I find. But in short, yes, I'd love to ship to Seattle.
I think that, yeah.
Browser extension. That's your answer. Browser extension. I'll tell you later.
Could you tell me the question? I was thinking about the previous question, wondering where in the world that came from. And I didn't even pay attention to the one you asked.
Do you welcome sales from the lower 48? Is the cost of shipping greater or about the same as shipping within the state?
So most of our out-of-state shipping is done through USPS, and so we do our online orders come in, and they all go out USPS. So it's the same for all of America. We do get regional rates through USPS here, and so we take advantage of those. And then sometimes in certain places, FedEx is actually cheaper than USPS. So it's one of those things we just kind of keep track of. Milo is pretty good at determining whether FedEx is a better rate for us or USPS, but generally most of our stuff goes out USPS unless it's a pallet going somewhere, a bulk quantity, then we send it by pallet and by LTL.
Are you already selling your product in the lower 48?
Well, we sell, yes, there are some products we sell. We sell pallets down periodically to certain retailers down there. But most of it goes down as online orders or made online orders. So a fair amount of our business is online orders.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, for us, we've explored going outside the state. Problem you run into, tortillas, dime a dozen down south. You can go to, say, California, Pacific Northwest, there's a tortilla factory on every corner pretty much. So we know the demand's there for our product because we do a lot of online sales, shipping outside. Actually, you know, we've sent stuff to Dubai, we've sent stuff to New Zealand, Australia that people have asked for that used to live up here, got exposed to it, want it. We got a lady in Portland that orders, I think it's like 10 dozen tamales every year. And like, oh, this is expensive. And we FedEx them to them overnight. She's like, I don't care. And we're like, okay. So we know the demand's there. It comes down to, like Ralph says too, we're all trying to make a buck on it. You know, that's just human nature, you know, it's capitalism, I guess. But you have to have that work-life balance. And for myself, you know, the age I'm at, I don't want to spend my life on an airplane going back and forth to the plant down there. And so now we're so busy up here, we just focus on trying to get the best product to our customers here in the state. And this is home, this is where we live, raise our kids. So this is pretty much our focus.
Yeah, and then just doing same as the flower company, doing the e-commerce route to get it out there. Nice.
Yes. And as far as the Amazon thing, I mean, they sent us some information. We've talked back and forth. Same thing. They want a what do you call it, an FOB or whatever. And I don't think the place up here has, because they call it like pick and pull, where they have people that'll like, oh, we want 1 dozen this, you know, on staff to pick the items to ship. I think this is just be sorting and transferring airplane to airplane, from what I'm hearing.
For now.
Yeah, similar to Cody. No, not yet, but someday perhaps.
Love. Thank you guys. Okay, I have one more, but to keep us on track, I think I'm going to pass it over to Katie so that we can do our group activity. Thank you. Give a round of applause for our panelists. Thank you guys for sharing all of your information. I really appreciate you being here. If each one of you can sit at one of these front tables, and then for everyone else, we're going to do that group activity. If you can move forward, get on these front tables. We would love your feedback just to understand how we can improve our local food economy. And then Katie, go ahead. Please.
Awesome. Thank you so much to our panelists for joining us today and shining a light on food manufacturing in Alaska. Can we hear it again for these amazing entrepreneurs? Thank you. So we have many wonderful people that have joined us this weekend and are really bringing a wealth of knowledge into this space. I know it's hard, but it would be awesome if you all can move forward and join us at the first 6 tables here. We really just want to capture your thoughts on how it's possible to shift consumer choices to food businesses. And it's really, really important to us to get your input. So if you could, it'll just take a few minutes and bring you up front to these first 6 tables. So folks here in the front row, you will find a sheet of paper on your tables. And what we'd like you to do is just take a look at the prompt and discuss amongst your table the ideas that come to light for the prompts on the paper. Write down your ideas on the sticky note, and there's really no idea too far-fetched. There's no limit to the number of ideas. We really just want to get any and all thoughts. And for folks that are at the other tables in the back here, for folks over at your booths, you hear me back there? And then also for the folks joining us online, we really want to get your input as well. So it would be great if you could head on over to the WOVA app and open up the poll section. You'll find all of these questions listed there as well. And so you can go ahead and submit your answers through the app. We really want to capture these thoughts so that we can actually utilize these in our work moving forward to change consumer habits. So we have about 10 minutes for this activity. We'll be walking around if you have any questions, and ready, go. Okay, so we're over here at group 1, and the question here is, imagine a new tool or technology that could help consumers easily identify and choose Alaska-sourced foods. What features should it have, and how would it work? Okay, who's your leader?
They said they have meetings.
Someone's got a couple, yeah, just one thing that came up for you.
Okay, so the one idea that we came up with, is this on? Yeah. The one idea we came up on was to have an app and on that app would be a QR reader, but it also have a locator feature when you were in a store, no matter what store, that would show you which aisle and section the local grown thing. Kind of like you go into Lowe's, you type in widgets on your phone, then it tells you aisle 5, section 3 or whatever. So something like that would be helpful. We also talked about a map showing that people could go to like the visitor center, and the map would show where local products are sold.
Quick plug for our directory. Definitely go and check out our map of businesses. You can categorize by different industries, and it's a really awesome resource. So buyalaska.com. Okay, so we're over here at group 2. The question is, share your positive experiences when choosing local food in Alaska. What made these experiences enjoyable, and how can we replicate them? Who's your leader?
I think the positive experiences we talked about were being able to actually connect to the manufacturers themselves, and that being really useful to building a sense of trust and security with people, the uniqueness of place in the foods themselves, and how can we replicate them? I don't know. Cool, I'm good. That's what we got.
I love that. That's great. Thank you so much. All right, group 3. Consider the role of education in promoting local food choices. How can we better inform consumers about the benefits of buying Alaska-grown and manufactured products?
Lovely. Hello, I'm Danny. I'm representing group 3. God. So our answer, we had quite a bit of answers, but they kind of boil down to mandating that all products on the trains and cruises must be locally sourced, but also educate the employees on those sources so that they can bring this info to the guest and create a conversation with the guest, which also brings them closer to their experience and closer to Alaska.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. All right, group number 4. Share your ideas on marketing and promotional campaigns that could boost the popularity of Alaska-grown and manufactured foods. What messages would resonate with consumers?
So there was a lot of marketing ideas that we had, but I think there's a couple that really stood out. One of them was working with the brands like Alaska-grown, Made in Alaska brands, or BuyAlaska. These are organizations that are already trying to highlight or promote these local businesses, and so helping them bolster their marketing efforts by the businesses working more closely with them and helping them with their efforts, because whenever they're successful, the businesses are going to be successful because they're promoting us. We promote them, they promote us. The other thing is making sure that in our marketing, there's, our goal is to help differentiate the difference between our products and those products that are coming from outside. Because there's a lot of confusion sometimes with certain brands that try to hijack the Alaska, Made in Alaska thing. So there's some brands that are fully engaged in the Alaska market, and it's on their packaging, it's in their marketing, whatever. But they're not Alaskan. And so how do we, as manufacturers in Alaska, how do we compete against those companies? And so as far as answering our question, our focus should be, this is the difference. Our product is Alaskan. This is how you know it, and taste the difference or something, So those are kind of some things that we've talked about.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, group 4.
All right.
All right, group number 5. Imagine an ideal shopping experience that promotes local food. What features, services, or support would be part of this experience?
We came up with a little quip. It starts at the door, and even before, people should know what they're looking for. So one of it is flyers at the door of the place that you're shopping at that give an abridged list of the products that are in the store that are actually available for purchase that are local, and possibly a flashy window ad on the window paint But then the other thing is on the way to the grocery store. Are they seeing it on billboards? In fact, we just decided we're going to put it on the side of our trucks, right? I did. We'll see if Chase is okay with it. And then make people aware of things like SNAP food bucks and other subsidies that exist for people who are on a tight budget. How often do you hear people saying, like, I'd love to do it, but, can I afford it? Well, here's the thing. Why don't they know about the things that have been made available to them to shave off that price advantage that other companies have right now, which they won't have much longer if we actually grow this ecosystem that's here today. But why is it that the people who actually have the advantage, I don't remember what they call it in Alaska, but like double up food bucks type programs, why don't they even know that they have it, right? So they should be made aware of that on their way into the store. When you buy local, you get basically a $40 or an $80 subsidy for the purchase of local food, and that it will come back to you in the form of goods and services and local employment, maybe the difference between whether or not your kid has a job. If that was presented to them before they go into the store, and they had a list, because they're going in there thinking, I'm going to buy something, right? And if that is on the list, oh, I was going to buy taco shells. Oh, this guy exists and has for forever. Do they know that qualifies for this or that subsidy? Do they know where they can find it?
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll be hiring you for some copywriting later, too. Thank you guys so much for playing along. It's really important to us to get your input. The work that we do to change consumer habits, we couldn't do without your thoughts. And so we just want to thank you so much for your time. I'm actually going to be shifting things over to Megan to wrap things up and talk about the way forward.
Yeah, so the way forward, what do we do now? We have all this information and data. I know there are some people that make some moves up in here. John does not looking at me. So now we can take this information and data and try to really make something better. That's what I'm doing at the MEP, is trying to really optimize our local supply chain, connecting folks. So if there's any manufacturers that need some help or want to get connected, please go get on buyalaska.com if your business is not there already. And follow-ups, we have some materials at these tables. Feel free to take them. If you need extras, there's some on the first and last table here, or you can find our booths in this last row. But we have some different data on the economic impact of buying in Alaska. There's something in there for the MEP and the services that we provide. So if you know anybody that can benefit from these services or resources that we offer, please share that with them. So in closing, I just want to say thank you very much. Thank you guys all for coming. Thank you all of our manufacturers for sharing your information, knowledge, and everything. This was put on by me from MEP and Katie from BuyAlaska. We appreciate you guys. Take an opportunity to network with each other. This is our chance to learn. We want to try to connect those manufacturers that can benefit, because maybe you guys use similar equipment or whatever the case is, or maybe you're trying to approach the logistics of Alaska. So this is how we can really start networking and creating those connections so that we can elevate our way forward. Yeah, thank you guys.